Another word we had was coevolution, which means two things evolving together. Coevolution means that as one thing changed, another thing changed to match it. The example in class that makes a lot of sense is if you find a bird with a beak that fits a flower perfectly, you can either assume, wow, the flower and the bird are magically the perfect shape for each other, or you can assume that, a bird that had a beak that didn't fit the flower it needs for food would die. So we have only the birds that match that flower. Coevolution is that change slowly happens between both species. Think of it this way. There are some birds that eat the nuts off of a tree. Nuts have a shell to protect that so that maybe some of those trees go and become tougher trees or become trees. Now, if a tree has shells that are so soft that every single nut gets eaten, the tree dies. It doesn't have any future. Well, the tree doesn't die. It doesn't have any babies, though, and there are no more future trees. So if we have one tree that has really soft shells, everything will, die because it gets eaten, and that tree, in 1,000 years, there is no more of that tree. If we have birds that eat those shells, there might be a couple shells, a couple nuts, with a thick enough shell that the bird can't eat it. Well, those are the ones that survive better. So in 1,000 years, we went from trees with a lot of soft shells and a couple hard ones to trees that mostly have hard shells on their nuts. Now the birds over here that are like, tweet, tweet, I'm a bird, I have to eat. The bird, if it has a soft beak and we have a shell that's really hard, the bird comes over and it's like, oh, I broke my beak, now I'm a broken bird, and he dies. This is a weird puppet show, I know, but I'm not a talented hand puppeteer. So if we have, oh, that's a better bird, kind of. Maybe it's a duck. But if we have a bird that comes over and it's got a thicker beak, apparently it was my hand, and he's like, bam, and he can get open that nut, well, that bird with a thick beak survives, and he's like, nom, 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 yum, delicious tree food. Okay? So the bird that's like, yay, delicious tree food, he has a thicker beak. Well, now the tree that has a medium-sized shell that thought it was going to survive, again, because some of the birds changed to have a thicker beak, because let's face it, all the birds that couldn't eat food because they had too soft of a beak, they died. But the couple birds that had the mutation for a thick beak, they managed to break open the nut and eat a delicious tree nut, like an almond or whatever. Now, we go back to the tree side. The trees now, the soft, even like the medium hard shells are getting eaten, so only the shells that are really hard survive, and so the next, in 1,000 years, all the trees have really hard shells. Now the bird over here that was like, oh, he's got a pretty hard beak, he can get into the medium soft shells, but now that they have really, really hard shells around them, he's like, oh, wow, I broke my beak too, now I'm a bird with no beak, okay? So that bird that's trying to get into the shell, he's going to die. But somewhere in the bird population, you're going to have like, I don't know how to make it any tougher. Now it's a bunny. I don't know. That's a good rabbit, but not a good bird. So we'll do this. Anyways, then you have a bird that is really tough, and he's got an awesome, super sharp beak, and maybe he's got a really strong jaw, so he can come over and be like, yeah, pa, and he still gets food. So if you go to this island, you're going to see trees with really, really hard shells and birds with really, really hard beaks that can break open those shells. It's not because they were magically made for each other. It's because all of the trees that have too soft of a shell died, and all of the birds that have too soft of a beak die. Because if you have a soft shell, you lose all of your nuts, and if you have a soft beak, you starve to death because you can't get in and you die. And then you're like, tweet, tweet, I'm a dead bird, okay? So, that is coevolution, is two things evolving to match each other. And again, if you don't understand any of these, talk to me, because I'm your teacher. That's me. Alright, so come in, talk to me, figure it out, talk to your friends, see if they understand the video better. But that is coevolution, two things evolving together, like cooperation.